Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League for Season 19, Round 22, the third to last race of the season here at the Losail International Circuit for the Qatar Grand Prix. I'm your host, Zach RC, bringing you through all the action of what should be another fantastic encounter in this enthralling season. I am joined for the third week by Ben. Ben, welcome along into the stream once again. You've had a fair good start in terms of exciting races. You've had two absolute classics from this season. Are we on course for a third one today, do you think?
Well, I hope so. That's what we're here for at the end of the day. We'd love it to be a bit more exciting than, let's say, for example, a normal strategic race.
Honestly, I think in terms of sitting up here in the commentary box, I'd have to agree with you in a sense, of course. And I think it gets more exciting than last week's race, or in particular, the finish to last week's race in Las Vegas. Grumio, of course, came away with a victory on track. However, the story changed a fair bit in the stewards' room. HB Cook, with that 10-second penalty getting removed, and it's pending or post the steward's report, meant that in the end he came home with P1 in the final order. So HB Cook becomes the latest winner in the Racers Driving League. So we'll see if that bodes well for next season. We're still waiting for the first few cars out on circuit here, so no one's actually going for it just yet, unless there's something wrong on my end. I mean, Ben, have you seen anyone as of yet?
No, there's nobody out on track at the moment.
Okay, well, okay.
Saying that, I can hear engines firing up.
And that is the sound of Landlord's McLaren, and I can see one of the Saubers on the circuit, and that is Ericsson who's heading out there. Of course, Saab with some big gains then in the championship. But saying that, also big gains for Alpine as Websy came home in second place himself once all the penalties were totted up. So he sits there, and obviously Sauber lose a fair few points. Just rather, Alpine lose a fair few points to Sauber. So the gap now sitting at 12 points between those two teams after last week's event. So still Alpine in 6th place. Red Bull pull away from Mercedes in 4th. And of course the fight rages on between Haas and Williams. But Haas, again, slightly increasing that advantage. Not much this time. It's a 48-point gap between them and Williams. So just over a 1-2's worth of points. So it could turn on its head. You never know. Grumio and JB obviously both in the race tonight. Both Che and or just Che in the race tonight. I'm the Pog in for his second race as reserve. This time covering for Dan, who's not with us this week after his last 3 races, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So perhaps stopping that slope from declining any further. And we'll see how I'm the Pog gets on this second RDL start. Ben, I've got my eye on Ericsson in the Sauber. Would you be so kind as to take us on a lap around the 16 corners of the Losail International Circuit?
Yeah, that's fine. Looks like Ericsson's practice lap very nicely indeed. We'll see how that relates in terms of tyre and performance as he opens up DRS, spinning a bit of ERS. Not too much to the point where you don't have enough to finish the lap, because of course that is very important. Going down the final corner into turn 1, takes a really wide line in, but maximises his exit out of turn 1 into turn 2. Another fast left-hander, 5th gear, and then it's up through the gears, and it's up towards turn 4 and 5, which I have to say so myself are not the easiest corners on the calendar, as Ericsson has handled that beautifully. Into the tricky hairpin now, we go another left-hander. It's downhill slightly, but gets on the power nice and easy. That's a bit wide from Ericsson, and he has invalidated his lap time.
So lap time deleted then for Ericsson. Tough start after what looked like a fantastic first sector, as you said, Ben. We'll keep focused now if I ride on board with Landlord here as he runs up behind the Sauber, who's just had his time deleted through turn 11. As we make our way towards the end of the second sector. 57.9 for Landlord on the board, so looking like a strong first outing for these guys, and we'll see whether Landlord can hold things in this last part of the lap as he makes his way through towards turn 15, of course heading down towards 16 to complete the lap, and we'll see where about he stacks himself up in terms of a base time, a benchmark for the cars around him to follow. So Landlord final corner and charging up towards the start finish line now, and that will be 1:21.9. So a solid start then for Landlord. And we'll see who else can top him.
Yeah, end of the day, these are all your first major rankings, so they're just trying to get used to trying to find out where the grip is. There's JB, so it's a 22.8.
22.8 for JB then, so second place on the board of the two cars set lap times. Are waiting out on AT to come through. and so his lap time, 10th place post all the chaos in Vegas as he runs towards the line himself. 1:22.1. It's a 1-2 for McLaren then to start things off. So a solid start as they look to try and close back in as much as they can on Williams and Haas in the constructors. But those guys now 111 points behind, and there was a point where they were sort of sat there as dark horse just a few rounds ago to have a chance to win the constructors title. But it appears, Ben, that that's sort of gone out the window at this stage, and it looks as though it'll be third place for the Papaya team from Woking.
Yeah, I think Williams have just had a good last couple of races, and then again so have Haas, so they really dominated the first top 5 as Pope sets a 21-7.
Oh. Pope fastest then for Mercedes. Of course, he's still looking for what I believe will be his second win of the season. Of course, that first one back in Jeddah a while ago. I mean, a long time ago at this stage. Obviously, Ben, I know you've got your memories from that Grand Prix, but we'll carry on as we are. EJ across the line as well. He's in the Ferrari there, gone P5, 1:22.9. He's going through the second sector now. Will likely bring the car in at this time. Next few cars coming in as HB Cook will start. Sorry, no, Ericsson's still on circuit. HB Cook emerging from the pits now. Of course, RDL's newest Grand Prix winner. I'm sure he'd like to add one on circuit as well as the one he's got post-shield support. But obviously, he drove a fantastic race in Vegas without a doubt. It's a shame that the penalty intervened, because I think without that, he'd have been up there fighting Imri and Grumio for the race win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 10-second, which I think he did end up in the pit lane, did hurt him quite a lot in terms of position and track time. It's not the easiest track to overtake at Vegas. It's a very DRS train. Like, if you fall out of DRS, it's really difficult to get back in it. Chase sets 21.6, but it looks like Imri's got the upper hand.
Imri may have the upper hand. We'll see what it looks like here. 56.9 in the second sector. He's got 2 corners to come here. Of course, he's been a monster in qualifying. Him and Grumio trading blows in terms of that qualifying head-to-head battle throughout the season. Ooh. As he comes to the last corner. Good exit, and we'll see whereabouts the Red Bull driver lines up. 1:21.0. That's a full 6/10 that Imri's got there. And it's a story we've seen all season long. Imri running that golden helmet this time to commemorate I believe 3 seasons since his last victory, which came at this circuit, Ben. So looking for Imri's trying to snap that streak today if he can.
Mega bank a lot from him with that as a... Wow, 6/10 ahead of Che already. Where's that cat came from?
He's brilliant in qualifying, Ben. I'll tell you that for one thing, and for another, Grumio looks to be trying to take him on. But we'll see once he finishes his outlap and goes for an actual flyer how that stands. DJ over the line, P5 for Alpine, as they may find themselves sort of back towards the midpoints as they were sort of during the race in Vegas. Of course, DJ in the end came home with a podium finish from the whole thing, so it's worked out quite nicely, I think, for a number of drivers. HB Cook, Websy, DJ, what a podium that is. Of course, it's first podium for him in the league as well.
Yeah, I think HB Cook's been on a very good run of form recently. He's been, even if he hasn't been flying around the top 6, 7, he's always getting the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th lower end of points, and then obviously that win in Vegas would definitely have spurred him on, and maybe, who knows, he could be in for another good result.
We'll have to see. I mean, he's got 3 more opportunities to try and get himself perhaps a podium on the circuit as well to add to that race victory. But hopefully he can pull it off. I think he's definitely capable of doing it. I think the win will give him a lot of confidence in that sense. Grumio is out on circuit now, 29.7 his first sector, and we'll see how the champion reacts to Imri's first time. But it could be looking to go the rounds between these two once again, as he have done for several qualifying sessions over the course of this season. As HB Cook goes up to P8 there, 1:22.6 on the board, just behind his teammate by, I say just behind him by about 4.5 tenths as it stands right now between those two. But both of them safely in the top 10. Still got 7 more cars yet to set lap times. In terms of the team we're missing, we are just missing the, sorry, I double check here. We're just missing the one Ferrari. Curtis not with us tonight. So EJ the lone scorer for Ferrari, but RB with the 7th place finish last week now find themselves only 4 points behind Ferrari with 3 rounds to go as Grumio invalidates there. Tough ends the lap as he comes back to the pit lane to cap off that first run. But in terms of that fight at the bottom of the table, Ben, RB and Ferrari now, this is the closest thing that they've been possibly in the last sort of 5-6 rounds or so, if not more than that. So there's every chance that we could see RB finally emerge out of last place and into 9th. And what better time to do with them now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the business end of the season now. It's where all that emotion runs high, and then all of a sudden you got a lot of pressure in your back. So RB are looking pretty good, but then so Ferrari again. I'd say RB are probably in a stronger hand at the moment. Obviously they've got Ben Lim and Alvar racing tonight, whereas the sole Ferrari of EJ is up in P11. But it's still a big task to beat EJ. I've raced against EJ multiple times. He's not the easiest driver to race against, but at the same time, he's also very quick.
So is EJ a very tough customer, especially there when fighting in the midfield. But of course, Curtis has scored the majority of points for the team this season, 30 for him for the veteran to EJ's 15, which puts them on, on 45 points. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong team for a second there. There's like an Aston Martin who go 30 points in front of those guys. I think we're out of a range now at this point, unless both teams get a huge score where they can upend Aston and really put them under pressure in that fight. What overall could be P8, but it takes 3 big results from one of these two teams to keep them from coming up short in that regard. As Ben comes through, Ben Lim there in the RB, looking for a strong lap when he comes through to begin his actual flying run. We're still waiting on another 6 cars to come through and set their first times. Grumio, Ben, Cottony, Alva. Oh no, two of them come through there just to set their laps. 10th Cannon up to 9th place there. She crosses the line. And we also had one of the Alpines, that is Websy, go through. That's P5 on the board for the Alpine. So good start then, as those guys sit there up in the top 7. But Che and DJ are both retired from the session, so those two calling it quits. So now it's waiting on Grumio, Ben Lim, Cottony, and Alvar. And now the Pog serving a quali ban for tonight's race.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. See, it's only 19 runners, but end of the day, we're very close to full grid, and anything can happen. Along with, just watching EJ's lap time, he invalidated on the triple right-hander by the looks of things. That's also where Grumio invalidated his lap as well.
So definitely a tough part of the circuit to get right without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I've had my concerns there in the past myself, so I know the feeling in that regard. But Grumio last corner, and we'll see this time whether it can put Imri under a bit more pressure, try and bridge that gap between the Red Bull and the Haas in second place. That's Che, obviously by himself in terms of full-time point scoring. Obviously Dan not in tonight's race, but potentially a chance that we can look into Dan confirming second place in the standings. I mean, at the minute he's over 50 points clear of Landlord, so Landlord would need to gain a certain amount of points in order to keep Dan from guaranteeing second place. I just have to wait and see what the McLaren driver can do. He's P6 right now, so as Grumio goes again invalid there, so I'm not sure if I just missed that by a few seconds, but
yeah,
a second lap deleted. It's a tough start for Grumio. There's only less than 5 minutes to go, so there's time for another lap, but he's making it a bit more difficult for himself than he needs to.
Well, yeah, Grumio's got the pace in him to really challenge at the front of the field. He just needs to get a safe lap into Q2, and then he can really start to stress the cars. Maybe he's having a few setup issues here and there. Maybe he's losing a rear. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, Grumio under pressure.
And that is a rare sight to see the champion this this far down at this stage of a session. I mean, we'll likely see him jump up as Imri retires from the session. I think he's currently the fastest man on track, 1:21.039. Grumio, at this point, as you say, doesn't really need to get a fast time in to put himself top of the board. He just needs to get himself into the top 15, which he is technically in right now with both RBs and the Mercedes of Cottony yet set lap times. We'll lose 4 drivers come the end of this session, which is in just under 4 minutes time. So Grumio needs something big on this lap. Well, actually, sorry, I have to track that. Not even big. He just needs something to get him over the line, and legally as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's not holding back, is he, Grumio? He's a very quick driver. He actually whacked a DRS bollard on the pit straight. That's the bit of a snap over to go through turn 2, and then turn 3 is obviously a flat right-hander. And it's now a tricky turn 4 and turn 5, which he gets absolutely spot on.
End of the first sector, 29.9 for Grumio. And as you say, Ben, yeah, he did for a corner that's given him a bit of trouble earlier on a lap ago. He's definitely managed to nail that. So he makes his way into turn number 7 now, and heads through that more technical second sector compared to the first and third, making his way towards 10 now, one of the tighter corners on the circuit. But obviously he heads out to that gradual left of turn 11, As it stands, looking at a good run at the minute, it's going to be a 57-2 for Grumio. So this should be a lap that gets to maintain the spot in the top 15. Ben, Cottony, and Alvar, those are the last three to come through and set lap times. Two of those cars are on their out laps. Cottony remains in the pit lane, but he's not got long here. He needs to get back on. He needs to get out on circuit in the next minute or so to give himself a chance of qualifying for Q2. Grumio last corner to complete this lap. This looks like a good lap, truthfully. This could be a high 20, perhaps. Oh, no, it's not a high 20, it's a low 21, but 2/10 off of Imri. But that'll do him then. So that is Grumio up into second place. And with 2 minutes to go, PJ Khaled is the one looking nervously over his shoulder at the potential threat of the 3 cars in behind in 16th, 17th, and 18th. So he's now the last car going through. But he's got a lap to set, so we'll see who goes out here and who will advance to Q2.
Yeah, it's always tight in Q1 and Q2, and then obviously as we get into Q3, we have those running for pole position. It always gets extremely tight. Just looking at both kick salvers now, whether they're going to be safe or not, I'm not quite certain. They've both gone out again, which tells me that they don't feel like they're safe. Obviously, HP Cook about 4.5 tenths as he starts his final lap now. Quite early on, I would say so myself.
P11 for HP Cook as it stands right now. Ericsson there in P9. So I think both cars, as you say, Ben, look quite solid in terms of position in the top 10, but both of them have gone out in circuit again, so they can't be feeling too confident about their prospects in case there are a number of cars who do come through and sort of a sudden pull advantages. I mean, that's just how close this grid is at the best of times, especially at a circuit such as this one. As you see JB in the Williams there, starting his last lap. Currently sits in P14, would need 2 cars below him to improve to knock him out, so at least improve over his time, which is a 122.8. We'll see what sort of gains he makes in the first sector. We'll get an idea as to what situation he's looking at in this final minute and heading towards, or rather through turns 4 and 5. Of course, that first split comes going towards turn 6, which is now. That'll be a 30.4, improving by a 10th, which will be enough to, or keep him in P14, make that P15 now. As you saw someone cross the line there, that was Alvar who goes into P10, and that will knock PJ into the bottom 4, but he's coming to the line himself now, up by almost half a second. PJ into P11, and JB is now in that bottom 4, so all of a sudden the pressure's on as Ben comes back in the pit lane. Ben Lim is out of qualifying. Grumio is retired from the session. Cottony is out on circuit. So we've lost 2 cars, and there's still 2 more to lose in this last part as JB finds himself 3 tenths up. We'll have to see. Ben, how is Cottony looking?
Cottony, well, he's just coming through the second sector now. He actually set, so Cottony, I'll just double check Cottony's sector 1 lap time. I was busy watching the kicks hours that time. HP Cook, it's at a 30.9 first sector, which is 10th and a half off Ben Lim.
And JB into P14. So all of a sudden things looking quite close. PJ into P11 as well. So now Ethan is the one under pressure. He's got to get himself a lap in, and that will knock 10th Cannon out if he can pull this one off. And Cottony Goblin may put both 10th and JB out if he can improve too. So it's going to be very tight between these 2 cars in the last part of the session. The checker flag obviously is up as JB is currently through in P14. Ethan is 2 tenths up though, which will likely put JB into P15 and knock 10th Cannon out. Here come towards the line. Ethan's P13. Cottony stays P17. So JB by 5,000ths of a tenth squeezes in. We lose 10th Cottony Goblin, Ben Lim, and I'm the Pog at the end of this first part of qualifying, and JB, EJ, and Ethan just squeeze in.
Good luck from Ethan at the end there, really under pressure. 10th Cannon did actually retire before going out on track again, so I don't know if 10th Cannon thought they were safe. Proven otherwise, if they thought they were.
Tough break for 10th then, so she'll have to start this race from P16, so we'll see if she can make it up for Red Bull and try and nab some points later on in the session. But Imri tops this first bit of qualifying here in Q1 by the current gap stands at 0.223, so just under a quarter of a second between Imri and Grumio. Of course, it is just Q1, and Grumio had concerns, so I doubt he was giving it absolutely everything in this first session, but it could be set for a very exciting fight in Q2 and Q3 with 5 different manufacturers. 6 manufacturers make up the top 6. So brilliant start, but 8 tenths covering those guys.
Yeah, we've seen tighter. Las Vegas was, I believe, was it 1.1 seconds between like the top 3 or something like that? So the gaps came down a bit, but expecting Q3 to completely erode apart and expect the likes of Grunier, Che, and maybe even Landlord's Fielder.
It should be very exciting indeed. We'll go through your positions if we can get them uploaded up on the screen here. Whether or not the game will actually allow me to do that this time, because it picks and chooses truthfully as to when it's going to work properly. It looks like the results aren't going to come on my screen, unfortunately. So I had to give it a set. I had to give it a moment. I'll be back with you in Q2 in just a moment. All right. So into Q2 then, and down to 15 drivers. So we'll see which of those 15 will become the last 10 to go and fight for pole position for the 22nd time this season here at Losail. And obviously, Ben, after how close Q1 was, rather how close Q1 was for Grumio and Imri, we'll see if anyone can bridge a gap to those two as things get a bit more serious in this session.
Yeah, everybody wants to get out as soon as possible, so we're not waiting around too much. It looks like it will be a Mercedes leading the grid. Maybe Pope. It is Pope.
So Pope fast car out, followed closely by Che, and also followed by. I thought I was HP Cook. Is that? Yeah, no, that'll be Ericsson. Sorry, in the third spot. A second time tonight, I've got those two Saubers mixed up. I'm going to stop doing that as best I can, but yeah, it should be quite interesting. Because Sauber come into their own, I think, in the last sort of 5 or 6 rounds or so. We've got ourselves to a point now where they're really, really competing for these points places. I mean, Ericsson's results perhaps haven't said that as much, but HB Cook is definitely there. And in terms of quality pace, we're both looking at them both for sort of fighting for dual Q3 appearances on the regular. So we'll see here whether they can continue that trend for the minute. Only car hasn't hit onto the circuit is JB, who's kept the car in the pit lane. Perhaps Ben Jugger is perhaps waiting for the traffic to die down.
Yeah, I think he's waiting for everybody to set the first banker out, see what everybody does, and then go from there.
So JB then left all on his lonesome in the pit lane as Pope comes through to begin what will be his first lap of the session. Everyone's first lap of the session. It's a nice long snaky train, and everyone's got a nice bit of gap to each other. So yellow flag in the last corner. It's Imri going slowly there as he goes through turn 16. And he might be positioned here for HB Cook to get a bit of a tow going down towards turn 1 if he's close enough. I don't think he is. But Grumio Imri opens that gap up once again. Grumio will be hoping to get himself into a spot where he doesn't have to worry about that final lap in Q1 as everyone's sort of slowing up now to give themselves a bit more clean air, a bit more space on track. Pope is coming through himself through turns 4 and 5. And we'll see what his first sector looks like. Hopefully Canada in comparison with Che's. 30.0 for Pope. 30.0 for Che. But Che fast by 35,000 to a second. So it's looking close here in his first part of the lap, Ben.
Yeah, they're not too far away off the Q1 lap, Q1 set to 1 lap times. So I think Pope was maybe around the 30.0, around the 30.1. So if this is used tyres, which is what I'm suspecting it will be, it's not too far off the pace.
Not too far off at all, and obviously we'll see those times start to drop later on when the fresher softs get bolted on to these machines. But as he enters the last sector now, into the last 2 corners on the lap, Pope is currently still in control of proceedings here. He leads the train into the final corner. I'm about to see a lot of lap times come through here as he completes his first lap. Che is in tow behind him. DJ had his lap time deleted as Pope goes fastest. Che quickly replies. Those two separated by about 7,000 of a second, so 700th of a second. Ericsson P3. Imri is fastest by 2/10, so once again he's back on it. Where is Grumio? Grumio will be putting on pressure. P4 for the champion, 121.7 from Grumio, but obviously 1 softs are in play for a lot of drivers here, so perhaps the grid not quite resembling what the order might look like later on. So we'll keep an eye out exactly as to when that may change and when that transition will come. But 8 cars through to complete their lap times. A lot of cars have had their times deleted here, or at least 2 or 3 of them have. EJ's had his deleted, Landlord deleted, had his deleted as well. DJ down there in P12, I think he's gone again in this case. PJ had his one done too. So a number of cars then caught out by check limits Ben in this first part of the session, and we'll have to hope for those guys that they can recover it and redeem themselves later on.
Yeah, Qatar's not the easiest track to master, I won't lie. Very high speed, very technical, and even if you do get that snap of oversteer, your lap times fall off a cliff massively as well. I wonder what we're expecting for the race. Would it be a 1-stop? Would it be a 2-stop? I'm not quite certain on that front. PJ invalidated his lap very late on, to the point where I thought about dashing into the pits, but decided to be the sensible person that PJ is. It's carried on for another lap and will no doubt box at the end of this.
So we'll likely see him pit this time. JB is now out on circuit, so he'll be going for his run more or less by himself with a nice empty racetrack around him. I should imagine that everyone will pit at this point, unless they're going for laps, or going for a second lap. DJ coming in, moving the car over to the right past the 2 braking bollards. Lucky to avoid hit. Well, not lucky to avoid them, but I think lucky for everyone else that we managed to avoid hitting them. Moving over all the way past them as he, locks up a fair bit there, coming in behind Grumio into the pit lane. So a bit of light concern there for DJ, but got the car back to the pit lane nice and intact. And Alpine will look to see if they can make any sort of improvements on their next run to both their 2 race cars as they double stack and get both cars into the box. And their fight with Sauber obviously continues on in the constructors. They've got a 12-point gap going into this race, and we'll see whether they can try and maintain it with once this round's over, just 2 rounds remaining, and that'll be Abu Dhabi and the reverse grid finale at Silverstone, which is always chaos. And Ben, obviously, you know that from experience of driving in that race yourself.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi is, let's just say, a fascinating one. Probably one of my more favourite circuits, to be totally honest with you. I just love the flow of the track. It flows so nicely. And then second sector is a bit of a tricky one, obviously, where what used to be 2 triple chicanes and now is only just 1. I'm just looking out for anybody out on the lap at the moment.
Just
it
JB.
Looks like, yeah, just AB is on his lap at the moment. We'll see what lap time he does for the first sector.
Round of ball with JB here. He comes through to turn number 4. Of course, narrowly scraped into Q2, by just 0.05 of a second over 10th cannon. And we'll see whether he can try and avoid that same fate. 30.2 in his first sector. Waiting here to see when we'll see a few more cars out in circuit. Imri's out on track behind the Williams driver there. And most likely, if I know Imri, he's got that fresh set of softs on. And we'll see whether he can improve. Because he's only about 0.2 down from his lap in Q1. So it's looking quite good for him so far. We'll see whether or not he can continue on in that regard in terms of improving. Whether he can perhaps get himself into the higher 20s. It could be on the table. We'll have to keep an eye out. But JB here into the final sector, going through turns 14 and now 15 and 16 to complete this lap. And we'll see where about he stacks himself up compared to his opponents around the circuit. Of course, JB's still getting used to the wheel and pedals. His first race of those being last week to memory. As he rounds the final corner. It's going to be a 1 minute 21, I should think. 1:22.3 for JB, but it's P9 for him. That put him only above Alvar. So, tough start for JB. And we could be looking potentially at an elimination for him in this round. But it's still a long way to go in this session. Still 7 minutes to come.
Yeah, JB has managed to find, along with the rest of the drivers, a lot more time compared to what his Q1 lap time was at the moment. It did look a bit planted. I think JB can maybe push the car a bit more. But if that is used tyres, that's not too bad of a lap from JB.
And speaking of tyres, Imri now on his fresh softs and improving by almost 0.2. So looking to be putting on the same sort of pace he did in Q1. So looking good in terms of a second lap or a first one on these fresh tyres as he makes his way in through turns 8, 9 and towards 10. Of course, that very tight left-hander into the more gradual exit as he slides in the car a little bit going through turn 10. Near and near that second sector, we'll see how much more he improved in terms of the added grip on the car. He's 2/10 up, 2/10, 200ths and 2,000ths. So that works out quite nicely as well. So they're 0.222. Nice and easy to remember. And that should likely, I think that was only just put him in the 120.999. So that's the projected lap based on that second sector. We could be looking at a high 20 here, Ben, as he rounds the last corner to complete this lap. We'll see whereabouts he puts himself. It's going to be quite close if he can try and reach that benchmark, put himself out of reach here. And he does do that. 120.8, big gains there in the last sector. And move Imri up into further into P1 as Landau goes P4 for McLaren in behind.
Yeah, yet again, Imri is showing all the qualifying pace he has got. 6 tenths clear of Che already, or near about 6 tenths clear of Che. Where is... It's daft it sound. Imri could be in a fight for pole position here.
I think there's nothing denying that at this stage, at the minute, of course, as it stands. I mean, 7 poles from this season to Grumio's 9. Of course, that's been one of the closest stats in terms of drivers challenging Grumio over 1 lap this season, but the record champion has still found a way to push himself on top in that particular statistic, as he has the majority, or if not all of the season. It's been a dominant campaign for the now 10-time champion. But the last 2 races, he's had altercations, he's had things perhaps not go his way, and I say save for the race in Mexico, which won him the championship 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. It's not been smooth sailing. It's 6th place in Brazil, 8th place in Vegas, sorry. Overall, his 2 worst finishes of the season, both of them involving post-race penalties. So we'll see if Grumio can recover that and try and get himself a strong end to the season. But it definitely, I mean, he had the pace on track, but in terms of the instances he's got into, not like the Grumio of old at all.
No, I think obviously with Grumio knowing the fact that he's a 10-time world champion, the pressure is off, so maybe he can afford to have a bit more fun. No, I'd say a bit more fun here and there. Obviously, we all want a nice, clean race, and I'm sure Grumio will be wanting a clean race here. I don't think he would like any post-race penalties.
Let's try and avoid those. Obviously, when we're on that, Dan not here as he's serving a race ban. That fact has just come back to my mind. So he hit the 12 penalty point mark last week after Vegas, and at this point now looking, we're staring down the barrel of that 1 race ban. So we'll see him, likely see him back next week for Abu Dhabi, provided that he is around, and obviously we'll see him for the final race in at Silverstone as well. That should be a very exciting round indeed. Looking forward to making a return to the home track for a lot of these RDL drivers. But in terms of this current session, there's still 3.5 minutes to go, and currently right now it's Ethan, JB, EJ, Alvar, and PJ in your bottom 5. PJ, the only car yet to come through and set a lap time. He's still down in the pit lane, so likely he'll go for 1 final run to give everything there. You can see Aston Martin mechanic leaving the pits as Grumio retires P6 in this session. He's not been really as with it compared to previous races, but obviously Q3 will decide positions for him in this case. But we'll see if there are a number of cars below him that do improve. It's looking lofty from here, but you never know. There's an outside chance that we could see a Grumio elimination from Q2.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, of course, providing that the track evolution does kick in, and obviously all these I'd like to think will be on newer tyres compared to their first original lap times. So we'll see what lap times they've got.
Of course, I mean, PJ, I believe he used his worn softs on that first run. Of course, things didn't quite pan out for him. So we'll see where the pace is for the Aston Martin. But as it stands, those two staring down the barrel of double elimination for the Green Machines as they obviously fight to try and stay in front of Ferrari and RB. Of course, Alvar and EJ, the lone representation for those two teams, the only two who can get themselves perhaps a place in the top 10 for the Grand Prix. As it stands right now, I mean, the car in 10th place has HB Cook, 122.144, down to P14, it's 122.589. It's only about 4 tenths covering those 5 cars, and PJ obviously as well will likely be in and around that mix. So we'll see whereabouts he stands in 2 minutes' time when the checkered flag waves. But you are looking now at final laps. Majority of cars, or a fair few cars, have retired from the session here. DJ, Grumio, AT, Landau, Che, and Imri. Pope staying on the circuit. Websy, same thing. Everyone who can build a lap is out of the lap now. And this will be the last fight so you get into Q3.
Yeah, they've also got to make sure that these laps do count, as I'm just watching Ethan absolutely send it for right, and it's so satisfying when you're getting nice and clean through the penultimate corner now. A bit of a downshift through there, but it shouldn't really affect his time too much. And then round the final right-hand corner and up to the start-finish straight. What will it be for Ethan?
Towards the line, into 10th place. 122.1. So there you go. Ethan now on the cusp of going through, but he's still got 5 cars below him, one of them being his teammate, who may well improve over him. PJ 30.5, so not looking like a fantastic start to the lap here. But at the minute, Aston have got their fingers crossed and just hoping they can try and get both cars through. But I think at this point, that's probably out of the question now. I think about it. I mean, PJ getting through at this point would knock Ethan out. And PJ's invalidated his lap, so that could be a concern. And he's got 50 seconds. I think he should make it. He should get round in time, only just. But he's going to have to charge up and go for one more run here and give it everything he's got to get himself one valid lap and try and push himself into Q3. But everyone now is on final laps, and we'll see who's got the speed. Oh, as Ethan is obviously backing off to allow these guys through. HB Cook Eric is there. Ericsson's currently in P9. He's deleted. He's had his lap deleted too, and he's quite close to Ethan HB. So it's looking remarkably close here. Any big improvements, Ben, could see any one of these guys into the last part of qualifying Q3.
Absolutely. It's just fortunately Hook's that time. He's 2.5 tenths up, so it's looking advantage kicks out at this moment in time.
Of course, both Alpines currently going through to Q3 as well. Websy P6, DJ in P8. As the checker flag now flies over the circuit. Final corner of HB Cook has got his teammate in tow. Ericsson obviously had his lap time deleted, so 2 cars below improved. That will knock the Sauber driver out. But his teammate coming towards the line here, and HB Cook into P8. Ericsson in the pit lane, and we'll see in terms of improvements. JB stays in P12. He is out of qualifying here. Ethan towards the line doesn't improve. 18 seconds down, he is also out of qualifying, only just by 22 thousandths of a second there at the end of things. So fine margins, but it's not over yet. EJP 13 improved, but not enough. He is also eliminated. Alvar up 3 tenths, almost 4 tenths going into the last corner here. We'll see if he can get anything out of this run up towards the line. Alvar to P9 and move RB into Q3 then. And it's looking like it's down to PJ, who may be able to knock DJ out in the closing moments here. Which J will get through into Q3? Will it be DJ or PJ? Here he comes, Aston Martin into the final corner through turn 16 and towards the lines. Cap off this qualifying session. Can he get himself in by the skin of his teeth? PJ to the line, P9 for PJ. And move him out. Wow. Fantastic lap there when it mattered. Clutch moment. And that will do it then for Q2. Imri fastest by just over almost 2 tenths to Pope. Che in third, Landau fourth, 85th. Websy, Grumio, HB Cook, PJ, and Alvar will fight for pole position in Q3. DJ, Ericsson, Ethan, JB, and EJ all going out. A lot of J's, a lot of E's, all eliminated at the end of this session. But still 10 more will live to fight for another 12 minutes to fight for pole position in Q3 in a matter of moments. So Q3 about to get underway, then 12 minutes to establish the 22nd pole position of this season. Just 2 more to claim in this campaign. Of course, no qualifying for the final race at Silverstone in 2 weeks' time. Should be an exciting encounter there regardless. I hope to see you at that Grand Prix. It'll be on the 18th of November as Imri emerging out onto the circuit at the place where he won at 3 seasons ago. He hasn't tasted victory since. And obviously, we asked the season-old question whether it could be tonight. I think it's based on his pace in the first 2 parts of qualifying. Unless Grumio can catch him, I think tonight he's got as good a chance as any.
Yeah, Imri's looking really good at the moment. He's probably dialed in. He's looking like the Max Verstappen-esque of 2023, let's put it. 6 tenths clear of Trey. Of course, Pope got within, I think, about 2 tenths. So it's looking really good for Imri at this moment in time. But
of course, it is Q3 now, Ben. So things start to heat up, and that is often where we've seen the champion arrive. Grumio is not on the circuit as of yet, but whether we'll see one of the Williams mechanics bringing their car out onto the racetrack. Alvar also out on circuit, of course. Alvar and PJ clutch at the last moment to get themselves both into Q3, so it should be exciting to see how they line up, and of course, a big chance for both teams to try and score points. If Alvar can keep it in the top 10, nab a few points, try and get a bit closer to Ferrari. It's 4 points separating those 2 teams as it stands, thanks to Alvar's 7th place finish in Vegas. His 9th place finish in Brazil, so a few points being claimed here. Whereas Ferrari, just the one score, P7 in Brazil for Curtis in terms of the last 3 rounds. So those guys with just those 6 points from the last 3 rounds of racing. Alvar with 8 points, so that the gain is still there and on for Ferrari, or for RB rather. But clutch time is now time as we come through. That didn't make much sense. But Imri on his first lap, and we'll see what sort of lap time he puts in. Ben, we'll see whether he's got the pace to fully establish himself as the one to beat pole position if he hasn't already.
Yeah, it looked really good through turn 1, and then obviously through turn 2. Still looked really good for Imri. So Imri's proper really dialed in. He just needs to keep this lap on its, I guess, on the white lines. Don't exceed track limits at all. Speaking of the level, as he nearly did. But it's been a good first sector for Imri.
29.7. That's a fantastic start compared to his first sectors in Q1 and Q2 in terms of that first lap of the session each time. As he makes his way into turn number 7 now, keeping the car under control, cool, calm, collected, and confidence riding with him from the last 2 races. Of course, 4th in Mexico, 2nd in Brazil, P15 in Vegas, but obviously was up there and had a chance to win going into the last couple of corners before the late contact with Grumio sent him sailing off into the outside wall there. So tough break for him, but he left that race in high spirits and has continued on that imperious form into tonight's action so far. So 2 more corners to complete that first lap as the Williams, I think, of Grumio slipped. There were only Williams of Grumio slow there on corner entry, letting Imri go. Perhaps might try and look for a toe here on the run towards turn 1. Might be the way to beat Imri. 120.6. That's the fastest Imri's gone so far. Can Grumio try and reply as Imri backs out the way to avoid giving him too much of a toe as Grumio heads towards turn 1? We'll see, Ben, how he responds.
Yeah, Grumio is obviously a 10-time world champion, so I'm sure he's got some pace in the locker. He's just yet to extract at the moment. Good first lap from Imri though. It's obviously the fastest gone, and it's 9/10 clear of ATI. That is a good first lap.
Fantastic first lap there from Imri. Just so that there is your sort of comparison. 0.9 for 1 to be exact. PJ there a second and a half back from Imri. Obviously, we'll like to see the Aston and the RB down towards the bottom half of the top 10 as Lando goes into 2nd place there. Bridges that gap a little bit as you see one of the Alpines emerge in the final corner. That's Websy with a lap deleted. So tough start to this part of the session. Of course, now the lone Alpine would look for a second lap. Both of them will be going through. Not a bit of it here. And Websy up against it after that first lap. Of course, only 12 minutes. So not a ton of time to go out there and fully execute several run plans as you would do in Q1 and Q2. You only got time for sort of 2 fast laps at best, so the entire process for 2 fast laps. Grumio final corner. We'll see whether he can truly respond to what Imri has put down so far tonight. Final start run down the main straight to begin to complete his first lap. And Grumio fastest there. Here we go, Ben. The fight is on. Che in 3rd place there. 3 cars now in the 1minute 20s. And all of a sudden, Imri, as he enters the pit lane, has got a little bit to think about for the first time all night. Grumio is there, and he's come to play.
Yep, Grumio's first sector, and along with Che's first sector, was quicker than Imri's first sector. It looks like Che lost a bit of time, lost 3 tenths to Imri in the 2nd sector, and then maybe a couple tenths here and there through the final sector. As Grumio now has proper turned up the heat.
And if it wasn't hot enough in a place such as this here in Qatar, I mean, I don't think we need much more, but all of a sudden it's game on for all of these guys. 7 cars, set times, just waiting on Websy, Pope, and Alva. I think Pope going for his routine running plan in these Q3 sessions, or going out slightly earlier, then letting the chaos unfold behind him. Alva is on his fast lap as well, currently there in the 10th position, one of the 3 cars to not set a time just yet, but he's on the circuit now, and we'll see what he's got in his locker, try and get himself a higher spot in the top 10.
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, it's a single house this weekend, so he's already on the back foot as it stands at the moment. Che, obviously, with Dan having the qualifying ban, but let's see what Q3 brings to us.
We'll see indeed. Just under 6 minutes left to go in this thing, so past halfway in Q3, and so obviously got 29 laps to come in tonight's main event, the Grand Prix itself. But Che is the pit lane end of the first run, and still that gap to Imri remains as it has been for these first 2 sessions, and he's just not close enough as it stands right now. We'll see whether he has got any clutch there in terms of clutch to sort of push into this next lap as we come through, and CHB Cook pitting as well. Landlord likely pitting as well. He's had his lap deleted, so I imagine he's coming in. Websy and Alvar both on laps. Alvar starting his run, and Websy same thing as he emerges out of turn number 16. Alvar the wild card here. We'll see whether he can get himself higher in the order, but this could be a big opportunity, Ben, for RB to try and nab some more points and perhaps pull level with Ferrari for the first time all season, if not before.
Yeah, I feel like RB have came on leaps and bounds in the past few races here and there, so they definitely showed that they've still got a bit of courage with him, despite obviously what the constructors fight is saying, but half of it is down to executing the races, and then you've also got to worry about obviously what other drivers do. And then if your competitors outscore you look like you've not had a good race, whereas by the looks of it, Alvar's already having a pretty decent weekend so far.
And obviously, as we said earlier, coming off of 2-point scores in the last 3 races, I'm sure he'd love to go 3 in a row and really push Ferrari a bit more to the brink in terms of that fight for what is currently P9 in the standings. Of course, PJ in P6. That's good qualifying for him as it stands right now. Of course, former pole sitter himself in this league, but it's been a little while since the run on F1 24 back in China quite a while ago at this stage. But we'll see whether or not he's got anything to challenge with in the second round of running here in Q3. 4 minutes to go. Alvar towards the line. DRS in play. Goes up to P6. It's a fantastic lap there from the RB driver. And we've seen Alvar come into his own in previous seasons around this sort of stage of the season as Websy goes P4. So these two getting amongst the pack. And these laps looking very, very close indeed here. I say that. There is 1.7 seconds covering the entire top 9. But the margins are tighter than they appear, and we're in for what should be a very exciting last round of runs as Landlord, the first of those cars to grace the circuit.
Yeah, just a bit of a sign note, McLaren looks like they feel like they're carrying something on the back foot in a way. They're not really there. Maybe with Grumio and likes of maybe if they can pick off a podium in 2 consecutive top 5s, they've just watched Alvar do something that I don't think. Can you do that? Can you drive straight for the gravel? I know he wants to get around to the pit lane, but I've just picked that up as I was scrolling in between drivers.
I think Alvar might try to get back round in time to ensure he's got time for perhaps one last run should he need it. I have to keep an eye out on the run plan for RB as they obviously find themselves in a Q3 position. I think a lot of drivers, a lot of the paddock might not have expected from them going into tonight's Grand Prix. But as I say, Alvar always sort of comes into his own in the latter stage of the season. It sort of kicks off around Brazil sort of time. I've always thought that's been a good track for him in the past, and from there he sort of carries it into the last few rounds, culminating a few seasons ago in a point where, if memory serves, a race at Qatar back on F1 22, in which he openly challenged Grumio for the race lead, and was a very exciting start to that United States Grand Prix as Landlord starting what should likely be his final lap now, and the next few cars emerging, and the fight is on. Imri is on the circuit. And we'll see as he stands there all by himself currently, as it stands right now, less than a 10.5 back from Grumio. But Grumio out on circuit 2 now as well. So we'll see here in these last 2 minutes who will take the 22nd pole of the season. Ben, if you had to give me a driver now to take pole, who's going to be? Imri, straight up. Okay.
Full confidence in Imri.
Full confidence. I like the way you think. Final 2 corners for Imri then, and the lap will be well and truly underway. And the pressure is real. These late stages in qualifying where any mistake could spell disaster. If enough drivers improve, it could knock you down a few places if you're unfortunate. But I think Imri is safe there. Hasn't dropped lower than second place all evening long. Alvar retired from the session, so calling it quits there. Not going for the lap in the end. It'll be P7 at best for him on the race start. The rest of the cars all currently on the other side of the circuit at the minute. The closest one to him being Landlord is going through turns 14, 15, sorry, 12, 13, 14 now. Had his lap deleted. He's got a minute to go, though, and he's got full battery, so we'll see what he's got lined up in the tank. Imri, though, is coming through turns 4 and 5. We'll see the end of his first sector now. As he completes sector 1, it is up by a 10.5, which is more than enough of what he needs, but Grumio may make gains of his own, Ben. So your prediction could be in hot water. We'll just see how Grumio does as we get into the last 45 seconds of this exciting qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely. Imri is leaving no margin for error. This is what's turning out to be a good, just a good for now. We'll see what Imri, we'll see what Che and Grimmy have got in the lockers. It's a 56-4 second sector for Imri.
And improving again as well. I mean, actually, still improving, but not by much. He's actually lost a bit of time by a few thousands. We'll see what Grumio does as he comes through turns 4 and 5. And a couple of cars going wide there. Che off the circuit. And Che retiring. He may have crashed the car. He has crashed the car. Grumio improved by a little bit. But Che is out of the session here. Imri up towards the line. And Imri goes fastest, but not by much. It's only 12 thousandths in front. And Grumio currently 67 thousandths up. You're going to need to... Imri's going to hope for Grumio to have his lap deleted here. And the checker flag is now up. So Grumio could be on course for pole here if he can maintain things. And I wonder if he improves big time in his second sector. He's down by a tenth and a half in the second sector. So all of a sudden he's up against it with one more part of the lap to go. In the final furlong, Grumio may be denied despite Imri perhaps not getting as much as he might have liked in this part of the session. Last corner for Grumio. Has he got any more gains left? He's almost out of battery completely. Obviously he's low on fuel. Sliding there, going wide in the final corner. Off in the gravel. And that will do it then, I should think, in terms of the fight for pole position. Grumio out wide in the final corner towards the line, letting Pope through. Pope into P4. Grumio across the line second. And that should put Imri on pole, short of AT, PJ, or HB Cook, denying them. PJ into P8. AT towards the line. AT stays P7. HB Cook comes to the line. What will he do? Just goes to P9, but won't be enough to catch Grumio, who takes his 8th pole of the season. Sorry, Imri, rather, takes his 8th pole of the season. Excited to get into qualifying there, and Grumio couldn't keep it together. So there it is then, by 13 thousandths at the end of proceedings here. Imri on pole once again. He'll lead Grumio and Chase turn 1. That's your top 3. Pope 4th, Websy 5th, Landlord, AT, PJ, HB Cook, and Alvar complete your top 10. It should be an exciting Grand Prix indeed. We'll join you back here in a few minutes' time for the start of the race. Don't go anywhere, because this one's going to get very exciting. Welcome back then. After that short break, we are set here for the 22nd race of the season, the third to last round of the championship. Welcome to the Qatar Grand Prix. If you missed qualifying, then you just know you're in for a fantastic race here around the Losail International Circuit. Here is a look at that circuit itself. 29 laps. Dan won this race last season, but obviously not in the race tonight with a race ban after accruing 12 penalty points over the course of the season so far. There is 16 corners. Tough one to get right. Of course, very DRS heavy. Particularly down that main straight going towards turn 1. The one DRS zone, the detection point for which is there at the exit of turn 15. So keep an eye out on that part of the circuit. It's going to be a very exciting Grand Prix. In terms of tyre strategy, it feels unknown, at least to me, because in terms of strategy that in the last few seasons of this track, it's always sort of been the one stop if we can help it, obviously avoiding a safety car, anything like that. But we'll see in terms of tyre choices what these guys put on. Ben, any words before we get going for this thing?
Buckle up and get ready. That's all I can say.
Fair enough, mate. That worked very nicely indeed. So on to the formation up then, and it's time to get ourselves underway with your starting lineup here for the RDL Qatar Grand Prix of Season 19. I'm the Pog starts dead last by himself on row 10, P19. Hard tyres on the start. He is one of 9 hard tyre starts on the grid, so the entire bottom 5 there. So Ben Lim, P18 for RB, Courtney Goblin, P17 for Mercedes, 10th Cannon, P16 for Red Bull. Of course, narrowly got knocked out in Q1. EJ lived on in that session, but was dead last in Q2. JB lines up in P14, of course, got through to Q2 by the skin of his teeth, and unfortunately knocked out in the second part qualifying. Let's try and close some more points. We'll help Grimio close some points on Haas and the constructors. 48 points is that gap. Medium tyres for the race start. Same for Ethan in front. Still sitting in 10th place in the standings, but his teammate is closing in with 3-point scores in the last 3 rounds. Ericsson lines up in P12, of course, still looking for his first points in the last few races, 9 to him this season as they try and close on Alpine in the constructors. DJ lines up P11, of course, narrowly knocked out by a late charge from Alvar and PJ in Q2, so we'll see if he can try and recover from that and join his teammate in the top half. Alvar lines up P10, RB just 4 points behind Ferrari at this stage, thanks to 2-point scores from him the last 2 rounds in Brazil and Vegas. Can he continue that streak? I have to find out. HB Cook, RDL's latest Grand Prix winner, lines up in P9 for this race. Won it after the Stewart report. A very chaotic race in Vegas means he walks away with the win. PJ in P8, of course, managed to get himself up into Q3 at the last possible second and joins these guys in the top 10. Medium tyres for him for the start. AT and Landlord line up there, P7, P6, still hunting that first win of the season. Medium tyres for both cars. Same with Webbsy in P5. He can try and get himself back into the or back on the point, back on the podium if he can. P2 in the end from Vegas, and Pope in P4. Didn't run the last race, but back this week. Can he get himself his first points? It's Mexico. Che lines up 3rd place, looking to try and close on Landlord for 3rd. Grimio 2nd, already the champion, and Imri on pole then. 13,000's covered those two, and it's going to be a close scrap to that first corner, but anyone could come out on top here tonight. As the last few cars take their positions on the grid, Ben and I'm the Pog waiting, or everyone's waiting for them to get it into position to get this one underway as they take their spots here in Losail. The lights about to come on. Here we go. For round 22 of the season, Grumio versus Imri for the run to the first corner. It's the Qatar Grand Prix here in the RDL Season 19. Lights out, foot to the floor, and we are racing. Good start from both those front row runners going towards that first corner. Imri moves over to try and cover Grumio off, but Grumio's already there. Imri's got to give him room for the first corner, but goes around the outside. It's going to be side by side. These two on differing tyres for this first stint. Into turn 1, Imri takes the lead away, going to turn 2. Keeps things nice and easy. Up 1 place, Grumio is still in 2nd. Webbsy into 3rd place over Che. Pope 5th, Landlord 6th. AT might try and challenge going towards turn 4. PJ Kelly in P8. DJ up 2 places. Ericsson in the top 10. And Alvar down 2 spots. RB in trouble early on in this race. Everyone's kept it nice and clean here. Ben Lim making moves. AT past Landlord. I see some sort of contact. I think one of the braking bollards has been hit going down towards turn number 6 there. But all in all, a clean start. And it's Imri who leads away once again here in Qatar.
Imri crucially managed to get the move completed around the outside of just after turn 1. He was under pressure going into turn 1 by Grumio, but in the end of the day, I think he just squeezed him enough to the point where he was able to get that gap to Grumio, and now he's looking at half a second advantage.
So pulling away a little bit there to try and complete this first lap with a nice bit of advantage for Imri as he rounds turn 15, and a Red Bull has been imperious in the first hour or so of our coverage tonight as he rounds that final corner. 1 lap down, 28 to go, and Grumio is waiting in his wake, going down towards that first corner, but not following in Imri's toe for the minute. So perhaps there's something else in mind, going to try and get clean air into that Williams, but it's all single file here, and the entire train covered there overall by 8.6 seconds going down that main straight towards turn 1. DRS in play next time around, so that'll be the interesting bit. That comes at that their DRS gets opened more or less as they're coming to cross the start-finish line. It's going to be very close going towards turn 1. And you saw how close they were on the start, Ben. As you say, Imri may have squeezed Grumio just enough to the point where he may have lost a lot of momentum going towards that first corner. He kept it side by side, but couldn't really challenge as much. Further back in the order, as the Websy is there in 3rd place. Any big gainers here from this first lap and a half of this Qatar Grand Prix? Several cars up 2 places. You're looking at DJ, Ericsson, and Ted Cannon up into P14. She's trying to score some points. Hasn't scored in the last 3 rounds, at least trying to change that today for Red Bull, as they obviously pull away a bit further from Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship after a point where they were under real pressure in the mid-portion of the season. They've come into their own at this stage, Ben, and Red Bull, while they'll still likely finish in 4th place, they're definitely going down swinging as Imri contending to win in these last few rounds of the season.
Yeah, they're not going down without a fight at the Red Bull. Whereas Imri has got a 9-10 advantage over Grumio. I don't think he's managed to make the DRS. However, he's got a big enough gap, and a bit of a side note as well. Wednesday is flying.
He's still in there in 3rd place, doing a remarkable job as we begin lap 3 of this thing. Grumio closing in about more or less slashing Imri's lead into 3 bits. He's got 2/3 of that gap back going towards turn 1. It's opened up a little bit here as Imri exits turns 1 and 2. Websy right behind these guys. Che in 4th place. Pope still in 5th. HB Cook down 4 spots. It's not been a brilliant start then for Sauber. Ericsson now sits inside the points, but obviously big loss at this stage with, as it stands, Alpine getting 17 points, Sauber only gaining 1. So things not looking fantastic for those green and black machines. We'll see if they can recover and try and challenge Alpine before the end of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, just looking at warnings now for anyone who has picked up an early warning. Looks like Pope has already picked up his first warning, along with a few drivers further down the pecking order. So Pope is already exceeded track limits once, and well, let's just hope he keeps it within the white lines. This is a very difficult track to get right.
We saw obviously in qualifying a lot of laps being deleted for those track limits, so it'll be a talking point, I think, over the course of this Grand Prix. Not as egregious perhaps as other circuits in terms of penalties administered. I think nothing tops Austria in terms of the warnings and penalties galore on circuits that are quite high speed in that regard, but Austria are quite packed up in terms of one circuit all being in one very confined space by comparison to this one, but quite wide open. As we begin at lap number 4 of this thing, it's still Imri in control. Grumio has DRS once again, but not following in the toe of the Red Bull this time, going towards turn 1. But Grumio getting to a fair bit. Websy still about 6 to 7 tenths behind, so still very much in the fight in terms of that top spot. As Underpog makes some move here, makes it around Ben Lim going towards turn 1. Alvar and Ericsson side by side as they go through turn 2 here. Make it Sauber versus RB. RB need those points a bit more than Sauber do, I think, in that fight to avoid finishing last in the Constructors and move Alvar up 1 place. So that's now 3 points separating RB and Ferrari. And EJ must know this. He's got work to do to get himself up towards the top 10 on those hard tyres. A lot of takers to the hards, Ben, in terms of this first stint. So I think we are looking at the one stopping here, and I think we imagine likely that these guys will probably go however long they can on the tyre they're on now and then switch to the other one. So I can't imagine we'll see the soft tyres in use much, short of a late safety car or it's just some sort of full-up in grip.
Maybe, yeah, that's the only thing that I can see really coming into play. Just a quick one on the hard runners. They are naturally going to struggle compared to the medium runners for the first few laps, of course, with them having a bit more time to get those tyres turned up to temperature. Looks like Imri is pulled yet again another 9.5 tenths advantage over Grumio. Grumio actually lost time at turn 1 on that last lap.
We'll see if he can take it a bit better this time. On to lap 5 now with a pass further back in the order. I just saw JB make a move on kind of what I believe was the 15th spot. Che is closing on Websy here, and the two veterans side by side towards turn 1. Che dives on the inside. A bit of contact there. Contact made with Websy's right end plate, but you get to know that no damage done. And I should doubt that. I imagine there might be a warning for a collision between those two, but we'll keep an eye out for any penalties administered later on as Ethan making the pass on Ericsson for P12. The Saubers dropping back out of the points completely here. It's looking like bad news for those two machines and good news for Alpine as they, despite obviously losing P3 to Che for Websy, in Websy's case, that is still currently 14 points going the Enstone outfit's way. So it's looking good for them right now. Of course, 12 points in front of Sauber going in. That'll put them 26 clear as we run. So Alpine looking good here with 2 rounds to go if things stay as they are. But obviously still 24 laps to go, Ben, so a lot of racing still to come.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of racing lots still ahead of us between now and the end of the season. What we may start to notice as well is that when people do break outside at the 1 second advantage, obviously you then won't have DRS. What we may start to notice is those who have started to fall off a bit, maybe under pressure from the cars behind.
I think PJ, Alvar, and I'm the Pog may be the first victims of that, as well as Cotton and Goblin. Those 4 drivers all currently out of DRS range of the cars in front, won't get it down the main straight, and in PJ's case might find some under pressure from DJ, who does in fact have DRS. Of course, DJ want revenge, no doubt. PJ's second lap there was what knocked the Alpine driver out of Q2, so perhaps could be fighting for a spot in the top 10, as there goes Ethan to the inside of Alvar here, and Aston Martin get themselves up into the points. We'll get both cars into the points here for the first time today on lap 6. And things advancing quite quickly here. Grumio still chasing Emery up front as he maintains that sort of half-second advantage at minimum. And obviously, Grumio will have to push things, or Emery will have to push things a lot more to try and keep in front of Grumio, as Ben gets hit with the 3-second penalty for the first one today. Multiple warnings. So as you said, Ben, we're looking at the track limits will be crucial today. And we'll see later on down the line if those penalties will affect the outcome of the race in terms of who wins it up front.
Yeah, absolutely. I think warnings and penalties are going to play quite a bit. It looks like the medium runners maybe starting to struggle now on those 5 lap worn tyres compared to the hard runners. Of course, seen a few snaps to oversteer here and there. Qatar is a notorious bad one for heating up the rears quite quickly. So I wonder what the likes of Grumio and maybe even Wedgie doing. Wedgie's fallen back a bit now, so we may start to notice a gap open up.
DJ with a time penalty there himself, multiple warnings. Speaking of gaps opening up, I had a look there at Emery going through turns 12, 13, and 14. Rather, sorry, I am right in terms of corner numbers. Big gains from there. I mean, Grumio closed in a fair bit once again, but we've noticed Emery sort of pulling 9.5 tenths or so, get himself very close to leaving DRS range as Pope and Webster go side by side for the 4th spot. Pope wins out on this occasion, makes the move up the inside, and dispatches the Alpine successfully, but 1.5 seconds to Che in front. Those 3 pulling away here, as we've seen for the last few weeks, is these 3 at it once more, the 3 Caballeros in that sense. But in terms of that gap, Ben, that he's been building the last couple of laps or so, it's constantly been going through that sequence of corners, and he's just seems to have more grip. The car seems so much more planted, that Red Bull, compared to the Williams. So whether that is where Emery's gained the most time, not entirely sure, but I'd say definitely keep an eye on him here when he comes through turns 12, 30, just through that 3-corner complex, and we'll see how much time he gains. I mean, he's already 8 tenths up this time round, so a good run again, and he could find himself a second clear of Grumio, putting him out of DRS range before they reach turn 15. So keep an eye on him here.
Yeah, I wonder if the dirty air is starting to affect Grumio, and obviously he's on the medium compared to tyres, with him being on the harder compared to tyres. It looks like he's been able to stick with him all right for now, but it does generally look like, as JB picks up a 3-second penalty, Emery is slightly quicker through that final sector, and once again he's just pulled a bit more, but it looks like Grumio's still got DRS.
So Grumio will likely bring the gap in a little bit, but I'd say he's probably got to look a bit nervously over his shoulder. It's a big gain there, because Grumio was on the verge of that gap being a full second. I mean, he was going to get DRS regardless, but they need to pull out a big lap in order to try and keep within range of Emery. But I say keep focused on Che behind as well. He's got the number of cars making moves here in the first sector, or in the first couple of corners on the lap, rather. So you saw JB on the penalty there. That's 4 drivers then who have picked up penalties in the first part of this race. Remember, Ben, you can't get those penalties off in the pits. They stick with you for the entirety of the Grand Prix, and you get them off at the end. So that's going to be a tough one to have to carry around. It's like a ball and chain, essentially, in the last parts of the race, especially if you're chasing someone or if you're being chased by someone else. It's not a nice feeling at the end of the Grand Prix to know that you've got penalties sort of holding you back in terms of a finishing position.
Yeah, I've been there before. Penalties do play a massive factor in confidence in the car, and obviously you take a bit more cautious, as I have found out in previous races. The only thing with track limit penalties is that you've got to keep your head down, you've got to keep focused, you can't make any silly mistakes, as soon as that mistake comes in, it's really hard to get back into a rhythm.
difficult indeed. I've been there many times myself before in career mode in the past. PJ time penalty there. The second driver inside of the points to get hit with one. And that obviously means things pass over to Ethan and Alvar. Ben Lim with another penalty there. I think it's been like the second of the evening, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. So first car to take 2. Landlord making them pass on Websy towards turn 1 to move the McLaren up into the 5th spot here. We're on lap 9 of this Qatar Grand Prix. Still a long way to go. PJ making the pass himself on DJ for the 8th spot. So Aston Martin again looking at 5 points as it stands right now in their bid to hold on to perhaps any late charges again between them, Ferrari and RB. I think the Aston's are in a pretty solid spot in terms of that fight. Still 30 in front of Ferrari, so it's looking good for them right now. But obviously you can't be too careful in case we get results like we got last week in Vegas.
Yeah, end of the day, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Both Aston Martins have got to make sure they finish in these good playing positions and keep EJ well out of it. Who knows what could happen? We may see a battle go through Sector 2 between Alderpog and JB.
And Alderpog clears him, yes.
Yeah, good move from Alderpog. Yellow flags behind, and that is Ben.
Ben Lim off in the gravel there, going out of turns 7 and 8. So we saw a number of drivers who found the gravel in the final moments of qualifying 3 about 10-15 minutes ago, if not 20. But Ben is the first one to find it in terms of the Grand Prix, and it's not been good for him or Cottney so far. Of course, Ben Lim with 2 3-second penalties, that's 6 seconds worth for him, and Cottney's just been off pace by comparison. So I have to see if those two can find their way back into this Grand Prix. Have our first pit stop of the evening. That is DJ coming in. Obviously can't serve that 3 seconds, but the medium tyres have done the first 9 laps for that Alpine driver. So whether we start seeing the medium runners come on in which they're in the majority, those guys, hard tyres going on, I think given he's done 9 laps to mediums, it might be tough to get those hards to do the next 20. So is there a chance for a 2-stop? I mean, it could be open for those guys who can't manage the tyres as well as others. We just have to see how DJ handles this situation and whether he can still try and recover things for Alpine. He's the first one in, so he's first to bite the bullet. Imri is still holding a solid 7/10 lead over Grumio, despite being on the slower tyre of the two of them, Ben. He's looking fantastic so far.
Yeah, he is, yeah. Pope has also joined us training, so I wonder if Che and Grumio maybe starting to hold back in the tyres. Maybe Imri as well. Imri is a fantastic racing driver, no doubt about it. By the looks of things, he may be going for a personal best.
We'll see what he's got in the tank. I'm going to keep an eye on him in terms of ERS. Obviously, ERS management crucial on a circuit.
PJ's off.
PJ. Aston
PJ's
Martin.
off, puncture.
Oh, and that's the front left that's gone on the Aston Martin. A big blow there to their hopes of double points in this Grand Prix. And 10-second penalty for exceeding track limits, probably feels which feels a bit excessive from race control given the current situation. He has got a puncture on the race car. Back on circuit briefly, I think that's probably likely to let Cottney Goblin go to avoid anything or compromising that Mercedes any more than he needs to. Number of cars coming into the pit lane. I think this may cause a bit of concern for those guys who are on mediums. And he's found himself off in the gravel there. So tough break then for Aston Martin as he recovers things. DJ goes through and PJ will find the pit lane here. Tough point in this Grand Prix. I have to keep an eye out, Ben, because likely we may see a large number of those medium runners now, perhaps in a move to cover themselves off and just try and cover their behinds to keep themselves safe in that sense. Especially if we're looking at perhaps at Grumio, who obviously is fantastic at managing his tyres, but you never know, he could get struck with one himself in the latter stages of this stint. We'll see whether he comes in this time.
Yeah, the problem we've got with Grumio is the fact that he's not been able to clear Imri. If he was able to clear Imri, he would have been able to keep control of his tyres a bit more, as I suspect he's starting to struggle on his tyres. So we'll see if he's going to box in the next few laps or so. I can't see what the puncture was for PJ. I wonder if it was just down for tyre wear. By the looks of it, JB's just had a bit of a moment.
JB there, having come out onto a fresh set of hard tyres, completed his mandatory pit stop for the race. Landlord in the pit lane, so the first of the leaders to come through for a stop. Of course, Landlord was about 4 or 5 seconds back, leaving Websy by himself here. It's just this top 4 train now. Pope has well and truly joined the top 3 in battle here. Hard tyres on that McLaren, and Landlord is away. He will likely emerge here, I should think, in the 13th position as he is now. Cottney Goblin, obviously now back amongst the pack, still needs to pit himself. AT is also pitted, he's there in P16. So a number of cars who have come in. Ericsson losing out to 10th Cannon. 10th Cannon now finds herself in P9 in this race. Obviously, a number of cars, well, a lot of cars yet to stop in this thing. There is your look. 5 cars have made their first pit stops. PJ, obviously, a more unfortunate situation than others. But we'll see when about to see everyone else in. But the majority of drivers now are on the hard tyre, and the medium tyre is the one that's in the minority at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Those who can take the mediums will obviously benefit towards the end of the race. So we'll see just how far these mediums can really go. Once again, it looks like Grumio may be a tenth or two closer to Imri than what he has been over past previous laps. But Imri looks like he is flying at the moment. He's not going to give Grumio that extra sniff of a chance. So we'll see what happens with Grumio. Grumio stays out.
And the top 4 all keeping it on the circuit. Obviously, 3 of those 4 being the hard tyre runners, so just Grumio to keep an eye on. But I did see Webster's dive in the pit lane there. Yep, here we go. One of the Alpines coming in, or the other Alpine coming in. Still no challenge. The top 3 staying as they are here. I'll have to keep our eye out towards the end of the Grand Prix then, as I was saying, on ERS management, because you saw it last week in Vegas. We saw how everyone sort of, after that late safety car, everyone going on towards the last lap, going down towards turn number 14 on the circuit, that long DRS straight down the Las Vegas Strip. Everyone was sat there, full charge, right behind Imri. There's considerably less cars behind this week as Under Pockets hit with a penalty once again here. Once again, sorry, no, that might be his first one. Oh, on the wrong thing. So yes, first penalty for Under Pocket. I thought he had more than one, so that's on me. Obviously in Dan's car this week. But yes, I mean, there's less cars behind him, and there's also a much shorter straight. So he's looking good right now, even being in the most vulnerable spot in terms of DRS. And he's got his battery back up again as well. But Imri's got a lot better at ERS management the last few races. But Ben, if you can tell us, so as a driver, how crucial is managing that ERS to get a good result?
It's really crucial, particularly on a track like this as well, where it's very fast-flowing corners. The only places where you can really gain is a hairpin and turn 1, and then the final corner itself. Grumio is a lot closer to Imri on this lap.
But there we go. He's calling it quits for this stint and coming in. So there we go. Grumio, that's arguably the closest he's been off of turn 16 all night so far, and now he's pulling it in for that pit stop. So he's going to likely be doing it. I think that'll be 16 laps on hard tyres. We are actually nearly halfway through this Grand Prix already, so it's gone by remarkably quick. Hard tyres on for the champion. He is away, and obviously still in the hunt to add to his ever-increasing tally this season of race victories. That tally currently standing at 14 wins from 21 races. So while that ratio has gone down a little bit as Lando sets fastest lap, Grumio is still very much the imperious champion we know he is, and he'll emerge here in the 8th spot, currently sitting 25.5 seconds behind Imri for the lead.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight when Imri does finally come into the box. We'll see what tyre obviously Imri goes on. I'm looking towards maybe lap 16 onto 17. It depends how really far Imri can push it on that set of hard compound tyres. He has got Che really close up behind so far, so we'll see how much turbulent air he does get for the triple right-hander. It's also good to know that Pope is still there. Pope is still in the fight.
Very much keeping going. Yellow flag, and that looks to be one of the Albies. And that's Ben for the second time in this race. Again, finding the gravel, this time over at turn 2. Recovers the car. It looks like he... No, I think he's okay. I mean, those mediums are quite fresh, so just a driver error there. I'm not entirely sure as to what's going on with there. We'll keep an eye on that as the yellow flags continue on. Is it a puncture, Ben? I mean, all 4 tyres look right to me.
Yeah, the fine will be the fine to me as well. So
lead change. Cut back. Sorry to cut you off there, Ben, but Che taking the lead now. I had a feeling, truthfully, that Che would be a bit more aggressive in terms of battling for the top spot compared to Grumio. So now Che is leading and is already 7/10 in front. Imperious stuff to start this first time out front all evening for the Haas drivers. He's looking for his second win in 3 races. Ericsson penalty there, so a number of cars now. That's currently 7 drivers with penalties from the 19 in the race tonight. So these things all of a sudden, I mean, looking like a concern for a number of drivers in this thing. But if they've all got the same amount, then truthfully, then it will be fighting for the same bit of tarmac and the same sort of spots on the racetrack. The guy with the most is PJ with 13, but I imagine that then 10-second penalty might get lopped off at the end of the Grand Prix, or in the steward's room, given he had a puncture when it happened, and there's not really much you can do in terms of control. But Imri, all of a sudden, is completely has been blindsided by Che, who's almost a second in front himself, and he looks as good through that complex of corners. But Imri closing a little bit here, bends out the races in the pit lane, calling it quits. First retiree.
Yeah, that would to be expected. I guess really for Ben, he didn't really have the first few laps he was hoping for, and then obviously he's had that moment. He didn't really able to recover. As Pope has now just passed him on track.
That's because Imri's in the pit lane here for his first and what should likely be final stop of the Grand Prix, coming in for a set of medium tyres. We're taking these things, as you said, Ben, lap 16, so we'll be taking this for 14 laps to the flag, as 10th Cannon will join her teammate in the pits. Where is Grumio? Grumio is through the last corner down the main straight now, going towards turn 1, and Grumio going to emerge in front of Imri here, fastest lap, and bolting, yellow flag over at turn 1. Look, it looks like it might be, sorry, that is Ben's AI. We'd like her to pull the car over. But Grumio now in front of Imri by 4 seconds. But Imri on the faster and fresher tyre. So it's down to him now to try and close the gap back down. We'll see what we can do. But up front, there's now Che and Pope. Almost a second separating them, but they're still the cars in control.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I seem to have a bit of a glitch with my timing board. It doesn't actually show when people are pitting, so all I see is a load of red proximity arrows and wave for a yellow flag. So I seem to have a bit of a glitch with timing chain. The problem with Imri that he's got currently in a moment of time is Grumio is a very audacious move around the outside of EJ. Imri's now got a dilemma to make, so obviously he's 3 seconds off EJ, but he's got 14 laps through on them tyres.
So it'll be down to tyre management in this thing to see how far he can take them and try and avoid a late puncture in this Grand Prix. I think that'll be his biggest concern. Che into the pit lane now. I should imagine that likely we'll see Grumio take the lead. He has been monstrous on those hard tyres. Obviously, fastest lap to his name, in case you didn't see it when he went over the line, 1:24.1. Remarkably fast here, and up on Imri's best time by a full second. But granted, Imri's been on the hard tyres. So we'll see what we can do on the medium now, as Che is in and Pope now in the lead by himself. Underpog into second place, passing his teammate here. What should do, yep, there he goes. And Grumio passing Che. So Grumio in the net first place. EJ there, yet to make his stop. And Imri a few seconds behind, as he has Landlord, and now Che rejoining right behind him. So Landlord, can he try and get himself in the train? Is he got a chance to win this thing? Try and have a podium finish? We'll see once Pope pits and once the order reshuffles to give ourselves a new race leader who will likely be Grumio, as he sits about 21 seconds behind Pope as it stands.
Yeah, average pit stop time around it is about 23.5, maybe 24 seconds, so Imri's closing really quickly now against the Ferrari. We'll see if he can pull the same move as Imri did just a lap ago.
So things seem a lot more aggressive in terms of Imri being fought, as he makes his own move around EJ. It clearly can be done in that second sector. Who said overtaking was impossible around here? But Grumio sort of held his ground in the first stint of the Grand Prix and didn't go for that move on Imri. Whether it just wasn't close enough, I'm not too sure on that front. Whether it was a part of the plan that Grumio perhaps had to put in effect, I'm not sure on that either. But as it stands right now, Imri's going to have to push those tyres in at least a little bit in order to try and close that gap. As Grumio gets DRS off Underpog, who will like to go as long as he can on that set of tyres. He's staying out this time, so Grumio will get DRS, try and gain some more advantage. Pope is nearing the pit exit now, but Grumio charging through and will take the race lead back, going down towards Tummel, making that move on the Haas driver. He's used to going for it on Dan, can't go for it this time, and Grumio into the race lead here with 12 laps to go, and things looking a bit more desperate for the cars behind him, as Grumio in between. So far, I mean, the pace of the pit stops is what is winning him this race right now, Ben.
Yeah, maybe in the pits it's proven to be a bit of a strategic one rather than the actual fine chaos. Then again, we have seen a bit of moments here and there. Just watching Pope come out of the pit lane, Landlord and Che were going wheel to wheel, and it looked like Landlord was not willing to give that position up quite so easily, so that could have ended in disaster for the Mercedes driver, along with the Haas of Che.
I'm sure Pope obviously wouldn't have wanted to emerge on the circuit with the situation being as it is. Imri might be able to close a bit more time on Grumio if he can get DRS off of the reserve Haas there in front of Underpog. He definitely seems to be running a bit stronger than he was in his first outing in Brazil a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see in terms of what Pog has got lined up his sleeve to try and keep Imri at bay. But I should doubt he will do. I mean, Imri's been fantastic himself. He's been on those tyres obviously for 2 laps. And as he rounds the last corner, I can't imagine him not making the pass. No, in comes Underpog, so free air in front, DRS in play, and he's currently 2.7 behind Grumio, but Che is closing in too. So it's down to these two, and obviously Pope back there as well if he can try and get away from Landlord to try and gain on Grumio as much as they can. Grumio just needs to manage things to the end. He should get his 15th win of the season, but yellow flag, last sector.
Yeah. Oh,
10th cannon.
10th cannon.
And those Red Bull cars find their way into the gravel almost routinely at this point. This seems to be a reoccurring thing as she rounds turn 16. Recovered it fairly easily, so no concern there. But yeah, tough break for her, Ben.
Yeah, I'm not quite certain what happened there. It was a very strange part of the track, so you don't normally see spins there. You don't often see oversteer moments. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll hear about it as who knows, maybe in the pre-race interviews. But I think it's Imri more under pressure now than Grumio. Grumio's pulled 2.2 seconds. Imri has currently got Che right up his gearbox.
And Che, as we saw when Grumio came into the pit lane, a lap later, of course, he made that move for what was the race lead at the time. So Che completely unwilling to compromise as he seeks his third win of the season in season 19, looking to try and match his teammate in terms of race victories this campaign. Out of the last corner here, and DRS towards turn 1. Che is right there with Imri, going towards that first corner. Good run already in play. And Pope fastest laps. He's got a chance still at a podium finish without a doubt. But Che now up to second place, and we'll see if he can try and run down Grumio for this race win. He's already inside 2 seconds already, so looking like a good start to things for Che. But if Imri can try and hang with him, as he's done in recent weeks, there's every chance we can still have a 3-way fight for the win, maybe even 4-way if Pope gets himself involved.
Who knows? Who knows what could happen? There could be a safety car and everyone could be bunched up. So a lot of things can happen between now and the end of the race.
We are now inside the final 10 laps of this Qatar Grand Prix. We just saw Ethan make a move there on DJ for the 9th spot. Obviously, DJ, one of those 7 drivers with a penalty to his name. So as it stands right now, there is your penalties. DJ losing 6 seconds in terms of his final time, but he's losing 3 of those to Alvar in behind, who will likely push himself into the 9th spot if he can gain a few more tenths on that car in front. And those points will be crucial for RB and the race to try and nab Ferrari. EJ still in 15th place with 6 seconds of his own. Those guys missing Curtis at the minute, as it may be a point now where they close to that gap to just 2 points in the World Championships. It's going to be very, very close in these last few rounds. A lock up there from Alvar as he goes through turn number 10. But he's leading that train. JB in behind, Ericsson there, P12. Number of cars all here still in play with a good chance at some points. Che, meanwhile, 1.4 seconds now. He's gaining about half a second on that last lap. Imri sticking with him with DRS, as is Pope. So these guys might all get reeled back in. As JB, 3rd penalty there, 9 seconds to his name now. And that might make his chance, well, it will make his chances of points a lot more difficult from here.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. As I said before, DJ does make his 2nd stop. So we are going to see at least one 2-stop runner, as I struggle to speak. But we'll see what happens. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Some medium tyres on them for DJ, and likely, as I say, Ben, running those to the flag. Whether we'll see 2 stops from everyone, not too sure. It may be those guys who obviously had concern earlier on the race, perhaps pitted a bit earlier than they might have liked. But DJ now on fresh rubber. PJ also in the pit lane, of course, had that puncture earlier on the race. We're going to see here, in terms of how long these sets of hard tyres are lasting for the guys up front. Obviously, these guys are possibly the best in the league, if not the best in the league, at managing their tyres. So we'll see what the game plan is for these last 8 laps when Grumio next crosses the line. I think likely they're going to try and go to the end as best they can. I see no reason why they wouldn't. It's going to be quite close for those guys on mediums. They've already done 3, 4, 5 laps on their tyres each, so we'll have to see how hard they push them and how much they can try and catch Grumio with just 8 more laps to go as Che crosses the line. 1.2 seconds down his best effort in this race. Imri still 3rd, Pope still in 4th, and Landlord by himself there rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, just watching the battle further down the field, and the Pog who's just pulled off a right move on Ericsson round the outside of turn 8. Who normally sees that coming? And then Ericsson kind of let his teammate by. So I wonder if Ericsson's starting to notice that maybe his teammate's got a bit more pace in him. He can go and fight for the team.
Obviously, Pog as a reserve can't score points. It's more sort of pride on the line. In this case, he makes a fantastic move there on JB into turn 1. Those medium tyres are working like a treat for that machine at the minute as he rounds turn 2 and closes that gap to Alvar. Obviously, as I say, can't score points. So as it stands, the last point will still fall to JB in this Grand Prix as they enter turn 4. But HB Cook, right on his tail, has no penalties as DJ retires to the pit lane here.
No, DJ's on.
Second retiree in this Grand Prix, and that second stop didn't work out for him too well, so DJ is out. So it makes me doubt if we'll see 2 stops for many more drivers in this race. Whether we'll get a word as to why was he retired from this Grand Prix, I have to wait and see. Obviously, yellow flag is there. Chase to 1.4 behind, so not gaining as much here. Needs to gain a bit more to get himself into DRS range. From there, then the party really begins.
Yeah, absolutely. Grumio may be burning his battery a slight bit, along with Che. You'd expect Che to close up to within that second at some point. Che's quicker as that is really hitting with that. Oh, front wing damage for Pope.
Contact there for Pope. And is there damage on Imri's car? Imri looks okay. And that is the AI. Was that the AI? I missed that. Yeah. I was focused on Grumio. Did he hit? I'm guessing he hit DJ, yeah?
Yeah, the problem with that, obviously with DJ ended up retiring is, I'm just watching the move from Wednesday, maybe. No, it don't quite materialise. The incident with DJ, what happened was DJ ended up retiring in the pits, but his AI came back out onto the track. His aim was
off on the gravel, and again, I think, and that is 3 of the 4 Red Bull livery cars have found the gravel.
What's going off?
Is that? I mean, I doubt it's a puncture. I couldn't imagine it being a puncture. It looks like it's going okay. So no. Driver error there, but perhaps I'm not entirely sure. I mean, obviously we didn't. Oh, big slide there from Imri as well. What is going on here? A number of contenders sort of losing things. A yellow flag for the back, and that is JB now off around. He's got a puncture. That hard tire looks to have gone. I think. I can't tell.
Is it?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got. I mean, the car looked like it was up on the left a bit, so I'm not too sure. I can't get much from this T-cam. I need to change back. Nope, he's okay. That was very, very odd then. So tyres becoming a big concern here in the latter stage of this Grand Prix. Che is now 1 point in all this chaos. Che is now 1.1 behind Grumio. So the race is on here for a 1v1 for this race victory. Should Che close in enough? But how much does he push those medium tyres in order to do it? But things falling away here for both Pope and Imri. Imri, both cars stay on the circuit here. Pope has the damage, but it's not impacting him too much, it seems. He's still good for 3rd place, not giving up the podium. But Imri now down in P6. And obviously, I mean, it was just been, so no damage done to that car. So he can still try and come back, perhaps try and have a top 5, maybe even 4th place. We can try and catch Landlord. But AT will keep him at bay here. And Webbsy obviously on his tail as well, stuck between those 2 hard tyre runners. And up front, it's still 1.1. But Che edging closer and closer. And Grumio's been a bit weaker than the cars behind him into this complex of corners. These 3 right-handers. So we'll see if Che can do enough here to get himself up into DRS range. It looks like Grumio's gaining. Well, perhaps it was the hard tyre that does better through there compared to the mediums. But Che not quite with it just yet. But he's got 5 laps to get himself in range. He is now in range. Alvar, 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, but I don't think Che will get it. Not this time round. But he's now in range, so next time round, if he maintains this advantage, then he will be in position. Grumio's got no battery left, so they're going to have to start saving this towards the end of the Grand Prix, Ben. But we should be in, hopefully, for an exciting 1 versus 1 scrap for this race win.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, yeah. Just starting to get concerned about the medium tyres, in particular, the likes of Imri, who is, let's just say, his tyres are starting to fall off, maybe along with the likes of Pope. Obviously, just watch Pope, the gap between Pope and Landlord. Pope has got front wing damage, so let's see how that unfolds.
Obviously, that damage will hinder him through the corners a little bit compared to anywhere else. But it looks like just that end plate loss on the left. I thought it was a lot more than that, truthfully, when I saw the contact. It looked like a lot more flew off the car than just that. But it looks like he's doing it all okay for the minute. But Landlord will likely start trying closing that gap. But he's done 13 laps on those hard tyres, so I can't imagine them going much longer and being as potent as they were earlier on the Grand Prix. Che, that Che in front, that gap's back to 1.1 seconds, 1.0 again. So it's going to be tight here. He needs to get himself inside DRS range to have any sort of chance in this Grand Prix. I hope that Grumio gets a late penalty. It's going to be tight here as they come through to get the DRS this time round. It's going to be very tight. He's going to get it this time, I think. It's close. It briefly flickered to 0.994. So it might be this time. We'll see if he gets it. He hasn't got it. Or he's missed out again.
Oh, no.
4 laps to go. And we're inching closer to Grumio win number 15 of the season. Pope still in third place all by himself, but his Landlord's still 7.5 behind. So Pope looking good right now. If the tyre holds, which I imagine it should do, then he's on for a podium. Imri still stuck in there behind AT. Can't go for move just yet. We'll keep an eye down this main straight, see if he really goes for it towards turn 1. But AT with a lot more battery to defend with compared to Imri. He's used almost all of his. And even with that toe, will he try it? Looked to the inside, thought better of it. He may still get there on the inside. He's made a good run through turns 1 and 2 as Ian the Pog makes the pass on Ethan in behind. But Imri still stuck there behind that McLaren. I think P5 at best for him today. And given he was leading earlier on, I'm sure he'd be gutted with how things have sort of fallen apart for him. I mean, pace was strong in the first part of the race, and there is a penalty for him. That'll make life a lot more difficult. He needs to get around AT and start to build an advantage. He slides there on entry to turn number 6. Things have fallen apart for him, Ben.
Yeah, it's not exactly looking good for him at the moment in time. Obviously, he was the race leader for the entirety of the first stint. He's pushing AT, can he make the move on the inside? No, I had a look, but besides better of it, that 3 seconds is going to hinder him now. Obviously, Wesley's not too far behind and will take that P6 away from him, providing it finishes the way it does.
Speaking of threes, then there's 3 laps to go, and Che is now inside DRS range and making that closing on Grumio big time. Look at that gap. Look how much it's gone down since we were looking at Imri at turn 1. The gap is just 2 tenths now. All of a sudden, the race is on, and we're in for a dogfight between these 2 Titanic Titans, long-time rivals since back in season 14, when these 2 first went for a championship together. Both times in their title fights, Grumio has emerged victorious. Che looking for those little victories over his long-time sort of closest competitor. And these 2 could be in for a fantastic scrap in the last 2.5 laps. While down the order, penalties may look to set to decide the rest of the order. HB Cook leading Alvar, who's got 6 seconds there. So a number of cars have obviously fallen down the field in that sense. Alvar not looking like points all of a sudden. And the chance to gain on Ferrari looks to be gone here.
Yeah. We are extremely unlikely to see safety car now, so it looks like it's just a straight fight to the end. Can Che stay within 3.5 turns? If Che can, it's looking good for him down the back straight.
2 more corners again. Is the closest he's been in terms of this entire race in terms of fighting for the lead. Imri's second penalty there, but we know that Che won't hold back on this run. But the question is, as we saw last week in Vegas, Ben, do you want to? I don't think you want to be that car in the catbird seat going down towards turn 1. You don't want to be that car in front, and Che is proving that now, making his move to the inside of the racetrack towards the first corner. Che is there. It's close to contact between the pair of them. Both cars keeping it nice and clean here, as they always do in these scraps of position. But it may all come down to that DRS straight in the last lap, as Webbsy gets a penalty of his own here. So things perhaps not quite over yet for Imri in the race for P6. If Webbsy gets one more, then that'll make things a lot easier for Imri as he goes down towards that first corner, trying to close an AT, trying to beat him on track. Imri going to the inside now, looking for that 5th spot, into turn 1 on the inside of the McLaren and clearing him on corner, or almost clearing him for corner exit wide at turn 2. AT is back in front. Imri trying to switch back now. Very tight between these 2, almost side by side, but AT winning out for the minute, going into turn 4. And Imri, I think his best bet is to try and force Webbsy into making some sort of error behind him to get him another 3-second penalty and try and maintain P6, because looking at that spot for him in this race. Meanwhile, behind them, Ian the Pog is closing in. P8 for him. What a drive it's been for him in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, it just shows that a 2-stop race is possible around here. Don't know what's happened to Che, but he seems to have really fallen. Yeah, he seems to have really fallen back. So it looks like that fight is off for the lead. It looks like Grumio maybe on course to win yet another Grand Prix in our deal.
One of those mediums have finally given in and called it quits. Regardless of whatever it is, Grumio has handled things perfectly in that brief 1-lap scrap for the lead. And now we enter the bell lap of this Qatar Grand Prix. Win number 15 of the season, very much in reach then for the reigning and still current RDL Drivers' Champion. It's been a fantastic drive for him, of course. Held position behind Imri the majority of that, the entirety of that first stint. Didn't get close enough to go for the lead.
Oh, Ian Pog's just lost it at the final corner.
Oh, down. It seems all okay, but I mean, you can see Ethan closing in behind, so whether there might be a last lap fight for that position as Imri again goes for AT, this time all the way to the inside of the track. Webbsy and AT contact there at the first corner, and Imri, which may try and bolt as best he can in, but I doubt he's going to get away enough to clear those 2 in terms of spots. It's looking like P7 for him in this Grand Prix, unless Webbsy ends up with a second penalty in this thing. and the Pog right behind these guys. But Grumio, though, now 3 seconds in front as he heads for the checker flag. He's half a lap from victory here, Ben. It's been a dominant drive for Grumio today in terms of the second stint.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Obviously, it really led early on, but Guma's led from when he pit, and he's on look back ever since. His chair is really falling off now. I wonder what's happened to Jay here. Maybe something to do with his fuel load, maybe.
Red light is on. Grumio then, last corner, dominated the second half of the race along with Che, held him off at the end. Checker flag in the air. Grumio comes across the line and wins the Qatar Grand Prix. Another victory in a dominant campaign of this fantastic driver. Che in second. Pope will come through despite the damage in third place in the end. Fantastic drive for the Mercedes machine. Landlord through in fourth place by himself here. It's been a quiet race for the three-time series champion, but this does confirm then that he won't score enough points, and Dan should maintain second place in the Drivers' Championship. Imrie beats both Websy and AT to the line, but in the end will finish in 7th place. 5th for AT, 6th for Websy. Oh, sorry, no cars gainer. Sorry, 6th for Ethan. Where's he come from? Well.
Wow.
Ethan, better even saw him coming. Ethan P6 and fantastic drive for Aston Martin. Websy, then Imrie. I'm the Pog P9. HP Cook takes the last point on the day. Ericsson in P11. There's EJ, Alvar, 10th Cannon across the line. JB in P15. He's got Cockney Goblin right on his tail. And PJ dead last today. Of course, after PJ qualified up in the top 10, things have not gone fantastically for him today. But Aston still getting some points through Ethan. A P8 start for PJ Khaled turns into a P17 run at the flag. So he'll join the stricken Red Bull of 10th Cannon at the line. There we go. But Grumio wins. Dominant stuff. What a race.
What a race. Where did Ethan come from?
I mean, he as we saw him closing, he was there sort of behind the Pog in the closing stages, but whether that scrap at the first corner between those three guys, between Imrie, AT, and Websy, whether that played into his hands at all. And obviously 2 of the 3 had penalties as well, so we can't forget that. But Grumio, for now, is the, well, I should think for the time being, is the race winner. Che in second. Pope in third. Fantastic drive for all 3 drivers. And we'll be back shortly then for coverage of the post-race interviews. Fantastic Grand Prix by all. So enjoy the brief intermission. Have a look at the final results. I'll be back with you in a matter of moments here to get post-race interviews underway. Okay, right, we're back then. And obviously the race is over and post-race interviews looking to get underway as soon as we can. We have got Pope in, who of course comes home in third place in the end. Pope, welcome into the chat as always. Third place in the end, obviously managed to triumph over a number of cars around you, but the damage there could have really compromised you in the latter stage of that Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone else was kind of struggling with tyre wear, and I wasn't, which was very fortunate. I mean, obviously, I extended my first stint 2 laps over Emery, 1 lap over Che, and I think it really did pay benefits. I was rapid towards towards the end of that race. I mean, 12-second gap to Landlaw behind, and only finished I think 3 seconds behind Che, and he was what 7 seconds ahead of me, like a couple lots before. So yeah, annoying because I feel like it actually probably could have been a race win, but I can't complain. I can't do if buts and maybes. I do absolutes, and I got P3.
Well, I mean, things definitely things definitely got a bit hairy out on the circuit, to say the least. I mean, in terms of the point where where the AI came back on the circuit, I mean, how close was that to impacting your Grand Prix? Well, no,
Say that again, sorry.
Do you know what? Sorry, no, I'm just realising a stupid question. I mean, I thought you. Sorry, I'm getting myself confused. I thought you'd rejoined behind all that, but I mean, just obviously ongoing glitch in the last few F1 games here, where a car retired in the pit lane, who had the AI sent back out onto the circuit, which is obviously a huge risk for those still in the race. Is that something that we think that has got unaddressed for a bit too long?
Not necessarily, no. I think it's annoying, yeah, but we know it's in the game. It's our fault. It's completely my fault for hitting Imri. And I think it's Imri's fault for hitting DJ, because you know that's how the game works at this point. I know that sounds really quite mean, but I'd say the exact same thing. You can't blame something that we know's in the game on making mistakes. It was just one of those. You're following the car, you're so tunnel visioned, and you don't realise. It's a shame. Like, it's unfortunate, but we know what happens with this game, so we have to race around it rather than expect it to change magically.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously the opinion very clear there in terms of the game as a whole, in terms of that sort of thing. But obviously 2 rounds to go from here, and you're looking set at the minute for what looks to be P5 in the championship. Is that looking like? I mean, is that a good return for you in terms of obviously that first season after not racing for a little bit?
I mean, yeah, I can't really complain with the results. I think they've been good. It's a shame. I think I'm in like 6 races and I've not finished 8, which is annoying because I feel like that's a lot of points lost. But I'll take P5 in the championship. I'm pretty comfortable there, I would say, at this moment in time. A little bit gained on Landlord, but I don't think it'll be enough at all to even think about competing for that P4 spot. But just going to look at the next 2 races and enjoy it, because I've not raced Abu Dhabi on this layout in a league, in RDL, sorry, and obviously no one's raced Silverstone Reverse in a league, I don't believe, so I'll be excited.
If you had to pinpoint one of those 2 races, if you had to give one of them as a sort of a race to watch in terms of a podium or perhaps even a win, is there one you'd pinpoint the 2 of them?
Probably Abu Dhabi more so, because I'm not going to be starting towards the back of the grid. I have no idea what my pace is like around either track, which is exciting at the same time as it is. I'm expecting a P5 or a P4 in the races, so anything could happen, especially in that final race of the season. We all know that, so always watch, but I don't know. I'm keeping my hopes pretty low.
Should be an interesting last 2 rounds. Obviously, congratulations on the podium once again, and we'll bring things over now to 10th Cannon, comes home in the 14th spot for Red Bull. 10th, obviously racing outside of the point. What? Are you trying there?
You're struggling to ask me questions, aren't you? Because I've had another bad result.
No bad result. I mean, my main question is what happened earlier on in the Grand Prix. Obviously, you went off circuit. What happened there?
So I don't know if you know this, if anyone knows this about Fanatec wheels, but if you press X and the 2 little squares button, it puts your thing in Xbox mode, which would be nice if I had an Xbox, but I don't. So that threw me off the road. Kind of a bummer, to be honest, because I felt like I was doing really well until then. I was making up ground. I was catching the guys in front of me. I feel like I don't think I would have scored points today, but I could have. I feel like I could have put myself in with a shot of it, which kind of all I can ask for, really.
Fair enough. I mean, a follow-up question: Why were you pressing those buttons all at once?
Because my overtake button is the 2 squares button, and my new I've made an adjustment to my driving style that Dan taught me, and yeah, it requires a lot more pressing of the overtake button, and so I was pressing it a lot more. I must have accidentally bumped the X button while I was there because I heard my radio go on, then I heard my wheel turn off, and then I was off the road. I thought I'd retired, to be honest. I was really worried that I hit someone, but I don't think I did, so can't really complain.
I think we were all okay in terms of that. In terms of that regarding, it was just the. I think the only casualty was yourself in that sense, which obviously makes sense. 2 rounds to go. Obviously, Abu Dhabi and Silverstone still to come. Is there a chance at one, if not 2 more runs in the points?
Now, I never thought I'd be saying this, but yes, I think so. I think if I can sort my quality consistency out, and if I can remember that I've changed what my button bindings are, because I have changed them now, then I could maybe get another maybe an 8th, 7th, 9th or 8th or 9th. I don't think I can do too well, but I mean, points are points. Like, I'll take anything at this point.
Well, so we'll see what goes down in those final 2 rounds. We'll bring it over now to JB. I think that should be our one for the day. JB comes home in the 15th spot. JB, perhaps not the one we wanted today, especially in terms of the penalties. Come and check a flag.
Yeah, I don't think that was so much the issue. It was more the spin, and tyre wear was a lot worse than when I practiced. I don't know why, but it was a good 1 or 2% higher a lap. So it meant by about 15 laps into the final stint, it was game over, basically. I had to back off completely. But, considering it was the first race on the wheel, my pace was actually quite decent. I was able to stick with Alvar and Ericsson, who I'd probably normally be around anyway. So, Qatar's not one of my best tracks. But, I'm happy with how things went overall. Just obviously not the result I would have wanted, but we move on.
I did want to ask in terms of the spin, was there any sort of particular error that was made there, or was that just a lack of grip?
No, well, it was my error. I was still getting used to the no traction on the wheel, and just lit it up a bit too soon, and I think by then the tyres had pretty much gone off completely, so struggling to keep up, and just a simple error. I'm glad I didn't catch Ericsson behind me, who was pretty close. Just one of those things.
Well, in terms of the constructors, 41 points to my mind. The gap, obviously, pending Steward's report at the minute, but there's still an outside chance that Williams can wind up with the constructors in these last 2 rounds. Is that something you guys got faith in doing, or is it a bit too far a task this time?
I think it's a stretch, because we'd have to really outscore them in both races, and I just don't see that happening, especially with me still learning a lot of things. And I think unfortunately we threw away quite a number of points in the last 2 races. That's sort of where it's gone awry. But like I said, we can't complain because the Haas guys have been strong all season, and if they manage to win it, then they'll deserve it.
I think I definitely have to agree with you on that. Obviously, from a personal standpoint, obviously you're still getting used to the wheel. With these last 2 rounds, to sort of be about just sort of trying to learn as much as we can going into next season.
Yeah, exactly. Might pick up a few points, and then it'll be proper focused. And I think this last couple of races is about getting used to bindings and just the feel of the pedals and everything like that. But once we get into pre-season testing and that, it'll be more about setup and race strategy and things like that. So, a lot of learnings today, but still happy overall with how things went.
Fair enough. I look forward to hearing about enjoying the sort of the improvements on. I mean, I say improvements, but obviously down to driving style. But I'm sure you'll get the kick out of the wheel that I definitely do when I'm making my own videos. But that will more or less do it then in terms of coverage for tonight's race here in Qatar. Ben, any final thoughts before we wrap things off?
No, just credit to everyone who participated. Obviously, those who didn't exactly see the checker flag, still credit to you. You didn't know what your point is. Just credit to everyone.
Good. Well done to everyone indeed. That'll do us then for tonight's Grand Prix. We're join us next week for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix penultimate race of the season on the 10th of November. Same place, same time on the Zach RC channel. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. Make sure to like, share and subscribe for more future audio content. Have a fantastic evening and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.